All right, Edgar. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man?
Man, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You were on Fuego el Show.
It's an honor.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, tell us, like, who is Edgar? Where are you from? What's your company? What are we doing?
For sure. So, first of all, my name's Edgar Espino. I'm from, I like to say I'm from Fresno, California. I was originally born in Porterville, California. Never lived there. I don't know why I was born there. I just was.
At the hospital.
Yeah. And I've been in Fresno, California since I was about 2 or 3 years old. I grew up big family, 9 siblings. I was always the kid getting in trouble, and thankfully, through going through the process of life and whatnot, I ended up joining the military. So I am a veteran, and 2 years after I got out of the military, I started this brand that you see us wearing called IRON Bullies. And it originally started as an idea to kind of cut my self-destructive behaviors and just get into something healthy and have something to offer my community in continuing to service, what I felt like needed service, just in general, because I'm extremely familiar with the area. I've grown up in a lot of these neighborhoods, and I saw it as a way of possibly giving back.
Yeah, talk about that. What neighborhood were you from?
So I grew up on Butler and Hazelwood, which is considered Southeast Fresno.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the most prestige side of town, but that was my home for about 9 years. Went to Winchell Elementary.
Okay, the Wolves.
The Wolves. There we go. And to make a long story short, my parents ended up moving us up where I thought it was like a great neighborhood off of Maple and McKinley.
Okay.
So I ended up finishing off elementary school over at Norseman Elementary.
Yeah.
And continuing my education at Scandinavian, where that's when I started getting in a little bit of trouble.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually from a similar neighborhood.
Yeah.
Not too far from Scandinavian, actually.
Sure.
But yeah, things are kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, it seemed like Fresno was there was a ton of gang violence and crazy influence. What led you to wanting to join the military?
So it was actually to be completely honest, it was actually what was going on in that time in my life, and it was all personal decisions. It was, being out and about, being young, wanting to party, be in the scene, not necessarily being the best child, I guess. So, a lot of spending time outside of the house and, kind of just getting involved. And, incident after incident was happening, or I was just finding myself in situations that I knew were making my parents uneasy as to how I was growing up personally, not necessarily a reflection for my entire family, but these were just choices that I was making and the group of friends that I chose to be around, which, some of them ended up being decent, but unfortunately, we did lose a handful, and some to the system, some forever or whatever.
Yeah.
But just knowing that is what was going on at that time, in my perspective, it kind of got me to thinking, well, do you want to be the next one, or are you going to do something about it? And I had actually gotten myself in a little bit of trouble. So, I don't know if it was God or what, but he introduced me to who ended up being my recruiter. And it was just crazy because I was working retail at a shop or at a store. I don't know if everybody recalls, but Gottschalk's was it was like a competitor to Macy's for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I met my recruiter there. He came up to me while I was on the clock. I thought he was a Marine because of I didn't know the distinctive uniforms.
Right.
And so that caught my interest as soon as he, kind of gave me his business card or recruiting card. And it took me a few days because I kind of just kept looking at this business card. And I was just like, man, I don't know anything about the military. Nobody in my immediate family had ever served. So it was kind of like, I think I'm going to make a jump or at least talk to this guy to see what he has to offer or how he could help me kind of get out of the current situation that I find myself in.
At that time in your life, where was the path? Like, what were you even thinking about at that time? Like, what did you want to be? Did you have any?
No. Well, I'm glad you asked that because I didn't necessarily have a path. It was just kind of waking up, figuring out a way to make money when I wasn't on the clock. Yeah. And it was literally just going through the motions, man. And it's a path that I see all too often, and like I said, it was one of those spare of the moment decisions to even just pick up the phone and call this guy. Yeah. Because I didn't know if they were gonna be able to take me in or not. And thankfully, he was willing to fight for me. And he gave me the shot, man. And it was crazy because through the process of that happening, so for him to recruit me meeting up with him at their office, and kind of taking the ASVAB and seeing like how I scored and what kind of job I could possess. Other incidents happened within my circle of friends to where, one of our close friends ended up, unfortunately passing through, getting shot and whatnot. So it was just kind of like, yeah, you felt the need that you got to get out of there somehow. For sure. And, I always recollect those thoughts because I meet young men all the time at my shop, and I just talk to them and I take the time to kind of not necessarily make them see a future, but just kind of instill and plant the seeds of like, look, man, you have multiple decisions to make in life, and if you continue to travel down this certain path, these are the options. But if you go over here, yes, it's the unknown still, but you may end up on the better side of things, Yeah,
there's a lot of conversation, and it's come up in music lyrics and other criticisms, but it appears that the military does a lot of recruiting in less fortunate areas. Yep. Kind of what are your thoughts on that strategy and how it kind of worked out for you?
Well, I think that's fairly accurate. I think that, because a lot of young men women too, are growing up in these neighborhoods where there's a lack of direction, or, there's just a dire need of making a decision. Hey, what do you want to go to college for? And being 16, 17, even 18 years old, you're not prepared for the world. You know what I mean? No. So I think even being raised by, not to the offense of anybody, but being raised by uneducated parents, that also puts you in a vulnerable position because if you don't have somebody to guide you in a better direction, than just say, get a job or go to college, you're still on your own, and it's
apply for this credit card, apply for that one, buy this car you can't afford.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden you're in trouble.
Oh, for sure. And then that leads to pressure and stress and things that, they don't physically make you do anything because it's all up here. But those values kind of go out the window when you're under pressure. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So especially young men, especially the type of guys that I grew up with, irrational decisions, man. And it's either them or me. So, if it's me to be in a better position, I'm always going to pick me, and it's a very unfortunate way to see the world. But just through experience, I know that I had that, in my life for quite some time. And then, once I dove into joining the military, going to boot camp, and, you know, being willing to be yelled at without necessarily responding. It was just, I'm here to learn.
What was that? I mean, did you take it when you joined? Were you mentally, you know, into that situation where you're like, all right, I'm gonna go in. I know what's coming. I'm just gonna take it and I'm gonna get through it. Or was it kind of a shock when it's like, man, these dudes are rough.
Yeah,
and like I'm not.
No, for sure. It was for sure it was a mental test, you know. It was a like mental strength test. It was strenuous. The physical part, not so much, just because, you know, you're young, healthy, go-getter, and as long as you're not getting in trouble, you're gonna be able to go through the process with almost no type of hiccups. They're still gonna test you,
right?
Because I remember in my group, I had one specific, you know, that like in the Marines and the Army, they refer to them as drill sergeants, but in the Navy, it's a little different. It's still the same, but they call them something different. And I had one specific guy who would just pick on me for like the first 2 weeks. And I know he was trying to break me because, for one, stature-wise, he was a little guy, just tatted up, Argentinian cat from New York. And you know, he saw my tattoos and he asked me he had an idea of where I was coming from, you know. And when I told him, he was just like, oh, so you run with so and so. And I was just like, nah, man, you know, like that's in my past, man. I'm here now, you know. So whatever you guys tell me to do, like, I'm here to learn, you know. And it was in reference because I would see every other young man that was there. I was already 21 going on 22, but I would see like the 18-year-old knuckleheads that would get dropped every day just because they couldn't keep their mouths shut, you know? Yeah. And it was that lack of discipline or respect even, that I was just like, man, well, you know, I'm here to learn, and I don't know what this is teaching me just yet. But I always refer back to that, like when I'm by myself and I'm meditating, or I'm just kind of thinking of my lifespan so far, like how far have you come? Because you know, before I would have made decisions that were even, you know, more self-destructive than the ones I make now. It's just, you know, still trying to control the stress of growing a business and making proper decisions for the people that I'm responsible for. But, you know, you live and learn.
Right. So a lot of people think about, you know, I don't think that there's a lot of people that truly understand what happens in the military. You know, it's what they see on movies, right? It's boot camp, for sure, and then it's war, right? But there's a lot of stuff that happens in between, for sure. What was your job and what was your experience like while you were working?
Yeah, so actually, it's funny because my first year I started off as a cook. Oh, really? And and it was like, you know, it was funny because even these drill instructors, when they would look at my portfolio and see that that's the job that I was assigned, they were kind of like, what the hell are you gonna do in the kitchen, man? And I was just like, I don't know, man. Guy, you know, I don't even, like, I don't know. That's just what they threw me into because that's what was available, and that was the job that would get me out of Fresno the fastest. Yeah. You know, because anybody who knows recruiting and anybody who knows the process of joining knows that exactly. And exactly. Yeah. So if you want to wait, you can wait for the perfect job. But for me, that was not an option. Like I had to go.
Yeah. So it was whatever was open.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was actually pretty fun, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Hey, cooking's a good time.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. And the funny thing is,
what was your best dish?
So I would just make random stuff that I would recall liking personally. You know,
so you kind of have some freedom to choose what you guys want to do. Or?
Not the first couple of months because I worked in a general galley, which is where you serve like the general population. So it's you know, you cook whatever's on the menu. So if there's like chili, you cook the ground beef, you mix it with the chili, and then you just serve it. Right. And there's people that serve the actual the fleet. But a few months into it, one of my buddies dropped the ball on his job for the galley that he was working on. So they replaced him with me. And that was cooking for like all the pilots, all the officers. So that
where were you stationed at that point?
In San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Coronado, Coronado Island down in San Diego, and it was pretty eye opening because you know, you get deployed pretty quickly. It's not like you're in for a year or two and then you get deployed. Like, it's just whatever the Navy's needs, or any branch, whatever their needs are, that's where they're gonna put you. So for myself, I was in the Navy for maybe 5 months, and then that's when I hit my first deployment. And it was just crazy because you get broken mentally. Like, man, I haven't seen my family in, let's say, a month. For the ordinary person, that's not normal, you know, but for you have to learn to accept that that's your life now, you know, or at least for the next. And
it's not really your choice.
Exactly.
Just to go when you want to go.
Exactly. So, and I just recall, you know, jumping on the phone with my dad one day, and I was just like, man, I don't know if I could do this, man. And he was just like, well, you know better. You know that you signed up for this, so, you know, just go through it, you know, learn, and
your parents were real supportive of this decision?
Not really, man. Not really, because my mom, you know, moms are,
they don't want you to go.
Yeah, exactly. And moms think the worst things.
Always,
you know,
they do.
If nothing happened to me out in the streets, she was assuming the worst, so she thought I was gonna be getting shot at and all that stuff. But you know, I kind of brought her some peace of mind by just letting her know what we were up to, and you know. It was just like an eye-opening experience. But to fast forward to cooking for like pilots and stuff like that, it was just pretty unique conversations, because these were the guys. Let's say you're out in I forget the fleet's names already, but let's say you're by the Middle East, and you know they're dropping bombs or whatever. And so you're serving these guys that are, you know, going on these missions, and they eat at any given point that they're able to eat. So, you know, they would specifically ask me like, hey, could you cook me up something real quick? All right, cool. And, you know, I remember seeing like hot dogs and bacon and all kinds of different stuff. So I just asked a group of them, have you ever had a bacon wrapped hot dog?
Oh, damn,
and they were just like, nah, man, I didn't know that was a thing. And I was just like, all right, let me hook you up real quick. And it was
some elote too?
Nah, none of that. But it was just funny because I served the guys, and you know, they finished eating and they came back and they were just like, dude, where the hell did that come from? Like, it was so good. And I was just like, oh man, it's like a little Mexican thing, you know?
Right.
And and it was just unique because that same year I had actually had my first bacon wrapped hot dog. So I just remembered how good it tasted, you know?
Yep.
And I wanted somebody else to have that experience. But it was just pretty cool because like when we would hit certain areas. So for instance, we got to anchor in Japan. We got to anchor in Hong Kong. We got to anchor in like Guam, all those stuff, and or all those countries, and you see these guys out and about, like at the bars or wherever, shopping, stuff like that, because you get about 24 hours to yourself, where you could, as long as you don't get in trouble, like you're good.
Go have fun.
Exactly. And I remember bumping into these same guys, like taking shots and stuff like that, and they invited me over because they recognized me, and I had a buddy with me, and I didn't want to get in trouble because you're not supposed to hang out with each other just
with
because
officers.
Exactly, just because there's a difference in rank, and it's a respect thing. But you know, they invited me to a shot, and I was just like, man, I don't want to get you guys in trouble, but you know, like, good looking or whatever. And one of them, he was a high ranking officer. He was just like, well, at least here's some money so you could buy yourself some shots for you and your buddies. And I was just like, oh man, like, and I didn't want to take it either, just because it's kind of frowned upon, you know?
Yeah.
And he just told me, it was like a line from a movie, like he was just like, hey man, don't turn me down or something like that. And I was just like, all right, cool. So we just had a grand old time at like these places, you know, these port calls. And so yeah, man, I got to see a lot of that side of the world.
Did it you know, once again, a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to get out of the country
For sure.
or to see different parts of the world and like, you know, have an appreciation for what blessings we have to live here. Like what did it give you new perspective of
Most
how
definitely.
good we actually have it?
Yeah. I mean, put it this way, my first port call was 87 days after I had already been deployed. So we were out to sea for almost 3 months.
Wow.
No land, no contact with the outside world, no phone calls, no nothing. You know, so it was to the point where people were on the brink of like just a mental breakdown, a meltdown, people trying to jump off the ship, just like
You feel
crazy.
Like, what is it? I mean, do you is the ship so large that you feel okay, or does it? Do you get like
motion sickness?
Not that, but just like real bad homesickness.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like,
Well,
where you don't feel like you're living real life anymore.
Oh, I think so, because you have to remember, you know, at least in my situation, you know, these are all strangers. You don't know anybody. Even the people that you live with or room with, you know, you don't know them and they don't know you. That you don't know their history, they don't know yours. So it's like, you know, just imagine walking into a room of 3,000 people and you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
And you just have to be okay with it, and you have to live with these people for the next
How'd
9 months.
you cope with that situation?
I feel like I've always been like a open person, so I like to talk. You know, I like to. If I were to still need to take the bus, I could talk to a person sitting in the same bench. You know what I mean? I could strike a conversation if they show interest, and that's kind of how I did it. You know, I would It was funny because anything that related to home, I would hold it dearly. You know, like Fashion's music, like my Fresno State hat, like just little things that I had that reminded me of home. I would just appreciate them, because you could only take X amount of civilian clothes and you have to have all your uniforms ready to go. And that little, let's say the 2-3 outfits of civilian clothes that you have, it's for port calls. It's stuff that you're never going to use. But, you know, when you do get to wear it, you know, you kind of get to look fly and, you know, kind of put an impression on people. So, you know, that was pretty fun. Yeah. But like I said, and even situations, because I remember one of my aunts passed away while I was deployed. And that just kind of took a toll on my, where I was at mentally, because I just remember kind of, you're not supposed to go out there, but these ships, specifically the carriers, they have these strips on the side of the ship. It's called a catwalk, and you could see the ocean right beneath you. So it's just some rails and a little bottom rail just supporting you where you could walk, and you could see the complete ocean out in the open. I just remember sitting out there for like 5 minutes, just like, man, I don't know where I'm at right now, but, you know, like, I'm just gonna pray that whatever these thoughts are going on in my head can kind of go away, so I could focus on what I'm doing right now. You know,
it's your time with God and the earth.
Exactly. And I think, you know, not to get extremely to that direction, but I think people forget, you know, like, the world can show you how magnificent it is by itself, because even like, you know, you could have a bad day like that, and then the next day you're walking through the I forget what it's called, but the middle tier of the ship, and it has open doors, and you'll see dolphins just, you know, kind of doing their thing. And the little things like that, even though I don't know anything about, you know, anything about animals and stuff like that, I was just like, man, that'll put a smile on your face just to see like dolphins out of nowhere.
Did you guys see any like did you go through storms and like weird weather events?
Yeah.
Like, what's that like on the
ship? I completely lost my thought prior to that. So our first mission, and this is the reason why we were out to sea for so long, back in 2011, a specific island in Japan was hit by a tsunami, and we were originally supposed to be heading to the Philippines, but we got flipped around because we were the first responders. So we were the closest to the situation. And it's crazy because as you had asked a few minutes ago, the appreciation for life here, that's where it came in, because this island got destroyed. You out in the, let's say you were to go to Pismo Beach, this is just an example, and somehow that got completely flooded and all the houses were just out in the ocean. That's what it looked like.
Wow.
You would see kids' toys, the rooftops of people's houses. Obviously there were some bodies and stuff like that. And like, I just recall kind of thinking to myself, like, damn, man, like, I don't know what the body count was, but just to know that many lives were lost to Mother Nature, like, you have to appreciate where you're from and how safe your family is, because most of the things that will cause harm to you or your family is through actions that you partake in.
Yeah, people.
But that was inevitable. That was just,
they had no control over
that.
that.
Exactly.
They're trapped.
Yeah. And I didn't look at that footage till about like 5 or 6 years later. Wow. Just because I was like, I just didn't feel in the healthiest state of mind to go and look at that, just because it was such a tragedy. And I remember when they finally told us that we were going to make a port call in Japan. It was a different area of Japan. And we had like 36 hours to kind of just like, kick our feet up and kind of just kick back. And it just felt so good. The appreciation for something as simple as a meal outside of the ship, right, just felt R&R. So good.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you get off the ship, or even now in your post-military career, like, what is it, has it changed your view on what it means to be an American?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm not extremely proud of what has happened within the last year and some change, just because I feel that people are extremely that they're forgetful of what allows for that freedom, and to turn on each other as neighbors. I think that's the completely opposite purpose of why we're here. I think that privilege is like a thing that we forget that we have, because there is people, even though I wasn't put in the situations where, let's say, Marines are being lost, or people that join the Army and our infantry and their lives are being taken. I still think about those guys like, man, even though not every person that joins is under that thought process, at least speaking for myself, I know that I do think about them, because it's like, all right, man.
Yeah, well, they give up the ultimate sacrifice.
Exactly.
For us to be knuckleheads over here sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, even myself, finding myself in situations where people disrespect me, I just have to kind of sit back and think like, all right, it's all good, man. They haven't seen what you've seen, and I think that the appreciation of living here and the opportunity that's at hand, if you're willing to do the work, it's unmatched. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you could go to any other country and more than likely there's restrictions. You could do it for a little bit, but eventually when people catch wind of these things, and if it's not allowed, you're going to get checked. Right. Or you're going to get, you're going to have to pay some type of fee. Here, all you got to do is pay taxes. And, right. That's, as long as you're financially responsible, it's not too bad. Yeah.
So how is that whole experience that you've had, being in the Navy, seeing the military, coming kind of from the hood, and then getting an opportunity to intermix with probably people you would have never had the opportunity to mix with, right? Yeah. Like you're with your boys, your neighborhood, your city, but now you're talking to, military officers, pilots, high-ranking officials, people from all over the world and are all over the country in many different aspects. How has that prepared you to be the successful entrepreneur that you've become?
Well, I think it was, detaching from my old self, if that makes sense, because, in life in general, and I think it's a work in progress, but you detach from your previous self. So people talk about the best version of you, right? And you never know that when you're in destructive mode, you know, because you could never sit back and say, hey, this is the best version of Edgar or the best version of Chris if you're under that thought process. But for me, just knowing, oh, I'm able to have conversations with this high-ranking official, even though I don't know how they feel about me, but my work ethic could speak about myself. You know what I mean? Like, hey, when 10 guys don't want to do it and I'm the only one willing to, that speaks for me and my character. So I think that it translates to what I was taught by my dad, what, you know, I wasn't willing to necessarily do in high school, like the study hours, the reading the books, that was necessarily not my thing. But working and physical labor, you know, I could do it 20 hours out of the day if I need to. And so, you know, kind of separating myself mentally from every other person that I would come in contact with, because it was always there was always some type of complaint. Man, this is not fair. This is that. This is BS.
You're talking about in the military or pre-military?
No. Yeah, in the military too.
In the military too.
Yeah,
okay.
Because you know, just because you're in the same branch doesn't mean you're necessarily mentally prepared to do the equal amount of work. You know what I mean? You have a lot of people who have never experienced.
And they're slacking.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, how the hell did you get through boot camp?
Exactly. They've never experienced real world work experience.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a privilege to do some of these jobs, you know, and it was funny because it's tedious stuff. It's stuff that, like, it's not physically challenging. It's just annoying. So to me, I just put myself in a thought process, like, I could handle annoying, you know, I could just, I just need to know, like, what is on the other side of this, you know, because whether it's ranking up or at least kind of gaining the trust of those that are in position to give you a good evaluation or whatever, like that's what I was shooting for, you know, because I don't know. I think for me, I was just trying to find myself, like, who is Edgar? You know what I mean? Like, what is Edgar willing to do to become a successful Edgar? You know what I mean? Because I don't think the educational system prepares you for that, you know, because these conversations aren't had at the high school level, at the junior high level, you know, they don't explain to you that there's a lot more to it than to just get straight A's, you know, because sometimes the kids that are willing to, you know, break their heads in the books and get the straight A's and have never done any work outside of that are the weakest links, because they've never been exposed to, okay, well, there's more of a demand for this than what you know or what you can memorize through a book. You know what I mean? So you have to be willing to you know, put in some grit and do some work. And, you know, that's what it really opened my eyes to, you know. And even having conversations, really, because I was a very timid guy. Like, I always assumed that you were smarter than me, and I don't know why I thought that way, but I just did. Like, oh, this guy's, you know, he looks better than me, so he must be smarter, you know. And I don't know where that insecurity or that thought process came from, but I just know that's how I felt. In a young version of me.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, there's probably a lot of people that share that, especially a lot of people that come from backgrounds similar to yours. I felt that way, that I just wasn't confident enough in myself and my abilities to take on certain things until you realize, like, you start meeting a lot of other people who you expect to be so much more talented and intelligent and this and that, and you realize, holy shit, like, they're not. They're kind of just normal people, just like me. And then it kind of gives you the confidence, like, man, I can do this.
Exactly.
You know, so why apparel? Why, you know, fitness? Talk a little bit about why Iron Bullies and what is Iron Bullies? For
sure. So, I mean, the apparel side, you know, that's cut and clear with the alignment of my life span. I've always loved clothes. You know, it's a weird thing, and it's a story that I tell all the time. But I think because I grew up not having anything, that it always made me want to have it. I don't even really recall, like, I don't think I ever cared in like elementary school or anything like that. But I remember clearly in like 7th grade, you know, that's when I started to care about what I wore.
Yeah, it's a time frame when
exactly,
people have Abercrombie and Fitch
exactly,
and Hollister.
Yeah.
Somebody's got Jordans. I've got Airwalks.
Exactly. And exactly. That's my point. But I was always a hustler. You know what I mean? And I remember kind of just like formulating my own ideas, because I would see, like, for instance, if one of my older siblings had a specific pair of shoes or a shirt or a jacket that I wanted to wear, I was like, well, they won't let me wear it, so I'm just gonna have to save up and you know, figure out a way to like buy these things and, you know, acquire these items. But the love for the apparel started, or just, you know, whether it was streetwear or anything, it was there since I could remember. Specifically for shoes, because
what kind of shoes?
Like I remember the first pair that caught my attention was, I think I was probably like 8 years old, 7 years old. It was like some LA Gears that my mom bought my brother, and she had bought me shoes about a week or two before that, and I was trying to mess them up so I could get a new pair, you know. Right. But yeah, and then you know, come 7th grade, I worked that summer before entering 7th grade, and I don't know if you remember Just for Feet.
I do.
Off of Shaw and Villa.
We used to go play basketball there.
Oh, okay. And they used to have this big cage where it was like $10 shoes, and it was funny because I had like $20 or something like that, maybe like 30. My dad was cheap, so he would pay us like $5 a day or something like that to work with them. But to make a long story short, I saved up my coins, and I remember going to the Just for Feet with my mom and my brothers, and I bought myself a pair of Filas. They weren't anything special, right, but I could say that I bought them for myself. And then I bought this Reebok jacket. It was completely opposite brands, but like, to me, I was just like, screw it. Yep. I'm gonna look fresh the first day of school. and that was that, man. So that was the beginning. The gym part, man, it was, like I said, that was an outlet for me where I didn't even know at first, but I found it to be the place where I could go be at peace with myself, you know, because a lot of humans have to be around people 24/7. They don't know how to be alone.
And did you kind of figure this out early, or was this
this
military,
was late,
or this is after military?
Yeah, this is post. I mean, this is during, because I had never, I had, you know, just like the average American, you get a gym membership, but you never use it. Yeah. So I've had those, and but when I joined the military, one of my mentors, he would invite me to the gym, and I had never overhead pressed. I had never bench pressed, nothing like that, or at least not correctly. And I would see this dude, and I was like, man, this dude's jacked, you know? So instead of thinking so much at night, I would use the gym that we had on the ship to kind of like, decompress a little bit. And even though I didn't even know that was happening, that was the beginning. Yeah. Because you know, it was a lot of pressure for me to at least kind of make it through the years that I was in, and without wanting to bail, because certain people do go MIA, and then you see them get arrested, and you know, they end up getting kicked out, and dishonorable discharges or just general discharges. But to me, that was a zero option. I had to finish what I signed up for, and you know, but the love for the gym came from where I started noticing that I started looking better for me. You know, it wasn't people having to tell me. It was just me being able to physically see myself and be like, oh, damn, like that's crazy. You know, like because I was always like the fat kid, you know, right. And like I always speak to people because I'm not in the best shape. I just enjoy the gym in general because I still use those same core values. Like if it makes you better, or if it even makes your day 10% better, you might as well.
There's so many different reasons for utilization of physical activity, whether it's yoga or running or whatever. Like you may not need to be the fitness model, but if it makes you mentally better, you know, it makes you happy, makes you feel better. I mean, that's what it's about, right?
Exactly. And then I also noticed,
coming from a fat guy.
Exactly. Nah, I was talking about myself when I agreed to that, but you know, and then I found myself kind of in a very, very unattacked space, because here, so for instance, we're talking about the Valley. I don't know exact numbers, but we have at least 500,000 people, you know. I don't know what the percentage of people with diabetes is. I don't know what the percentage of people with high cholesterol or people that are, you know, close to having a heart attack is. But I just see it when I walk into a Foods Co., when I walk into a Wing Co., anything that services low income people or families. You could clearly see it. You know, you could see a person in their 40s having to use a walker or an electric scooter to get around the store. And I would think to myself, like, that's very unfortunate, you know, because these, without getting too ahead of the topic or too into the topic, these programs that are set up to supposedly feed the less fortunate or people with low resources, you're getting set up for failure, because
it's dangerous, right? I mean, it starts to get a little into politics, but it's like you know, often healthier food is more expensive, and when you're on limited income or you only have a certain amount of food stamps, you know, there are positive things out. You know, I grew up. We were on WIC. You know what I mean? And you got eggs, and you got cereal, and you got, and I think that's a positive thing. It helps people kind of eat in a healthy way, and helps them with their in their situation. But there's a lot of people out there that just are buying whatever's the cheapest thing that they can afford to fill them up, and it's not always the healthiest. And it starts from like this youth core. I mean, you don't generally get to 40 by starting at 18 eating poorly, right? Like it started when you were a baby,
for sure.
And there's a lot of those things out there. So it's like initiatives like yours where it's like maybe someone like me just likes the brand,
for sure.
I'm like, oh, that shirt's cool, and then I go to your store and I'm like, oh damn, it's right here by the gym, and oh, they have supplements, and this is a fitness thing, and I see all these people around, and they're like encouraging me or maybe connecting me to certain types of fitness. I mean, talk about the community that you've created through your brand.
For sure. So I think it's very diverse. To take it back to day one, you know, we started at GB3 Sunnyside, which isn't in the best area, you know. It's an a decent side of town, but it's definitely not the best. And for me, that was just my home gym. So I would go there every day, and I would spend anywhere from 2 to 3 hours daily, you know, kind of just working out, bumping into people, kind of just talking to whoever, you know. I was in a very open book when I first got out of the military, and I think that's how most veterans are. I think you kind of get used to like the camaraderie within the system. So when you get tossed back home or tossed wherever you decide to stay, you're kind of like, oh shit, like none of these people are like me. I don't really like this, you know. So you kind of go into a hiatus, but you still have to be out and about, right? And so for me, it took for me to bump into one of my old buddies, which ended up being my first partner with IRON Bullies. And he too is a veteran. But, you know, I would see him maybe once every 2-3 weeks. And, you know, it took a while. It took about a year. And then I remember I just told him out of nowhere, because this idea kept bugging my brain. I kept dreaming about it. And I finally got an artist, a graphic designer, to create me a logo. And I was just like, hey man, like I have this idea. Like I kind of was thinking about including you or making you my partner somehow, because I see that you know most of the guys here at the gym, and I don't really know anybody, right? So that's how that conversation started. But you know, before you knew it, because my original intention was to reach more veterans, and before you knew it, just regular people just gravitated towards it. I don't know if it was like my energy, but I've always tried to be like just a very courteous person. Just like, hey, my bad if we got to the bench at the same time and you want to use it, go for it, man. Yeah. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna pick on you or size you, you know, size you up or whatever. No, it's just whatever. So our original model that he and I, my buddy's name's Eric, that we had discussed is like, how can I help you model? You know what I mean? Because even though there's humor in like people being recorded doing like inappropriate lifts and stuff like that, there's humor in it. But to me, it was always like, why not be that person that could avoid somebody from hurting themselves? Yeah. Right. So it was just more or less like literally just asking people like, hey man, you might want to do this like this, or would you like me to help you, or at least show you how it's done correctly? And it was literally that simple. But you know, somewhere in the mix that kind of changed through the process, just because not everybody's up to being that nice, you know. But to me, that's how I always carried myself, just because I wanted people to know, like, look, this is what I'm doing. Here's what I have to offer. This is my crazy idea. And if it sticks, it sticks. And if it doesn't, then at least we tried it. And
how did you get to the point in which you were able to, and it made sense to, all right, let's open up a store?
For sure. Yeah. So that actually took some time, because so Iron Bullies was launched in the summer of 2016. And I see that you're wearing a taco hat. Yeah. And the first Iron Bully shirt that I wore was to a taco throwdown. Oh, nice. And it was just me and my daughter.
Shout out to the Grizz.
Yeah. And it was funny because I had this idea of like taking a bunch of shirts in a backpack and just handing them out. And I didn't do it because I got too shy. I was just like, I got too scared, you know? So this idea, it sounded great in my head, but I ended up I chickened out. And it was just like that, man. But it was pretty cool because there was so like I said, we originated our location at GB3 Sunnyside, and there just so happened to be a nutrition store just like the one I have today right next door. It used to be called Iron House, and it was owned by Jeremy what's the mayor's name?
Dyer.
Jeremy Dyer. So his son used to have a supplement store right next door. And I didn't necessarily speak to him directly, but my partner knew of him. So he asked him for us, like, hey man, would you mind us, you know, leaving some clothing here and maybe paying you co-assignment? And it ended up being like a monthly charge. So we were basically renting space.
Some shelf space.
Yes. Yeah. You know, to be able to sell. And that's how it kind of got started, because the first few, I skipped a lot, but the first few units that I created were throwaways. Like I bought them from China. I didn't know if they were appropriately sized for American males, and they weren't. So you know, I took a big L on that stuff, and only a handful of people still have those units. And it's funny because they're definitely not made for the average American male. You know, like those things would fit myself like a crop top. So it's just, you know, it was not a pretty sight. And so, you know, I took the L on that. And, you know, Iron House actually ended up shutting their doors. This was, you know, at the end of 2017. So we're talking about 18 months in, or maybe less. And then I was kind of just stuck with all this inventory. And I was just like, man, what do I do next? And fast forward, I ended up, you know, reaching out, or they reached out to me. My buddy Austin, who's currently my store manager at my shop, he reached out and was like, hey man, so and so said it was cool, like, you know, come talk to him and see if he wants to carry your clothing. So I went, I think, a total of 2 to 3 times trying to talk to the owner, and I could never bump into him, or at least he tried to act as if he wasn't the owner of the shop.
Yeah, smart move.
Yeah, and and you know, he had heard some things about me that were inaccurate in a sense. And he ended up finally giving me a shot, man. And like it was crazy because I think.
And is that where you're at today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
a great location.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, right outside of a gym.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it seems like. And then so you got that store, and then did you decide? All right, like apparel is great, but I need to add on. Like, why did you tell us about a little bit about what you got there on the table? Like, why you guys started creating pre-workouts and all this other stuff?
Yeah, so the off the leash idea, it was kind of a branch off from what was already created. So, you know, even though I didn't own the shop just yet, you know, I would be there every day, you know, and I wasn't doing much at the shop because at this point I was still going to Fresno State. I was still a student, trying to figure it out. And, you know, but I would, whether it was between classes or after school, I would find myself at the shop just kind of like, you know, trying to be more involved, trying to learn more, trying to just like soak it all in and become a bigger part of the community. And, you know, I would have conversations daily, at least when my buddy Austin was working the shop. I would just talk to him, and he's a young dude. There's about a 8 to 9 year gap between us. He's a much younger guy, but I would just talk to him about his life, like what are your plans, you know? Because the thing that I always use with these young dudes is like, I wish I had somebody like me when I was your age. Yeah, you know what I mean? Somebody who's made the mistakes already, exactly, that you can choose not to. Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, it was just kind of taken with that angle. And, you know, he later kind of told me that those questions would aggravate him, because he was just like, man, who are you to be asking me? Right. But at times he has thanked me for, you know, kind of pushing him, because you know, now he's a successful personal trainer. He has his own business. We're partners in the pre-workout and the supplement line that we're creating. But yeah, that was basically it, because I would pick his brain. And as I was telling you before, you know, the episode started, like I would always just kind of have an eye for talent. And this young dude is just like super smart, man. And so I recognized it immediately. And I was just like, dude, like, yeah, it's great that you work here, but I feel like you need to do more, you know, because just as any motivational speaker or anybody who people have the tendency to listen to will tell you, like, don't just do your 9 to 5 and then go home and do nothing. Right. Like, you have to work on your own dreams and goals and aspirations. You do. You know? And then that's something too that I think resonates with a lot of people from the Valley. You know what I mean? Is there's a lot of hustlers out here. Whether it's somebody working out in a packing house during the day and selling roses on the corner on the weekends, you know what I mean? Or if it's somebody making t-shirts or selling stuff on Poshmark. I mean, every level, every ethnicity, every gender, all these people in the Valley are all hustling a lot. And I feel like, you know, when we were bringing about the thought process of what we wanted to exemplify in the community through the Fuego, it was that. It was a hustler's mentality. It was being part of that culture and collaborating with your partners around town, right? Because it's sometimes you may not have the into a certain situation that you want to get into, but you might know somebody. Exactly. And so I think that thought process probably led both of us together 100%. Into collaborating Iron Bullies and Fuego. So what was the reason why you even thought to reach out about like, hey, let's talk about a collab, or let's talk about what we could do together? Yeah, no, well, I mean, so to begin with, I always seek out opportunities where I kind of feel like my heart is at, you know. So Jose is the one that you know told me about Fuego coming back into the picture, and you know, it's had its history with the Valley.
Right.
And though, a lot of people may have forgotten, or they kind of put it behind them because, a different team, came about and took that space for a little bit. I think that, when I heard the idea of it becoming a thing once again, I became extremely excited, because even long before this, I've always told myself, like, if there's opportunities here in the Valley to take, like, make sure that at least you present your ideas so people know that you're interested in becoming a bigger part of what it is that the Valley will become, Yep. Because I'm a strong believer in people that live here should have ownership or have say about what happens here,
right.
And a collaboration with Fuego, which is, I don't know. I don't know that there's a bigger, or even equal, sports team that has taken place here besides the Grizz, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that as soon as I heard the idea, it's just like an explosion in my head, like, oh man, there's so many things that could come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was talking to family members about, about a week or two ago, when we finally agreed that we were gonna go through with this, was that I think every thought that I've had that is obviously a good thought, it comes into fruition because I have good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've always wanted to reach the level of success, or at least in my eyes, to be able to sponsor kids, or like underprivileged kids at a school that I either attended or I could just see that is in need of some type of funding.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and I think that this opportunity presented itself at no better time,
mm-hmm.
Because I've always had like that, man, like if I could help out somebody or some people with things that I wish I had help with when I was a kid, there's no better feeling than that.
Right.
Because I don't utilize money or resources as a haha, I'm better than you. It's
mm-hmm.
just like, nah, I'm like, let's
make our place a better place.
Exactly. Because enough is enough with the news. Fresno in general, if you're from here, or if you even know a slight history of this place, it's always been amazing, but also self-destructive. And we see it on the news. If you watch that stuff, like 12th murder of 2021, 13th, 4th, and the number just keeps scaling, but there's nothing on there that says, hey, there's these local guys that are going around making a difference. Mm-hmm. And I don't need that spotlight just yet, but I want people to know, like, on the other side of the coin, there's
people out there that are doing that.
Yeah.
And one of the special things I think, we discussed as we were going through this process was like how, for Fuego, it's like we, in a very simplistic mindset, right, on kind of the business and the marketing side, it's like you want your brand to be out into as many communities of the Valley as possible. Mm-hmm. And we feel very comfortable that we're making extremely positive connections within the soccer community. But there's so many other people out there that live in the Valley that are from different types of communities that want to have another community to join. Yeah. And being able to show that the Fuego is supporting all these different communities and supporting local business, garners a little bit of our ask. And hey, help us out here. Like, we want you to be supportive of this team as well. We've seen time and time again over the past, people are like, oh, great, we got a pro sports team. And then they never go, and they never buy the merch. They don't buy the tickets, and they don't actually support it. And then they're pissed when it leaves.
Exactly.
And maybe a lot of that's on the sports teams not being ran properly. And I think that's true. Mm-hmm. But it was part of our mission that we wanted to support local business and other local people and have them feel like, hey, that's our team.
For sure.
Like, regardless of if they're getting something back, like we're going to throw up local restaurants on our on our Instagram, or collaborate with local businesses, because it's our goal that we grow as a community.
Yeah.
And if we know we are from a part of the country that's probably financially depressed much further than a lot of other parts of the nation, if we can help local businesses grow, if we can help develop programs that help people in need, then there are going to be plenty of people out there that can attend games and buy the merchandise, and it rises together.
Exactly. And, you know, I already, even though, you know, when people, the few people that have asked me, they say, well, you know, what are some of your goals with this collaboration or whatever? I just think to myself, like, wouldn't it be cool to be able to purchase 100 tickets and give them to my customers that come in for a protein tub or a t-shirt, or, you know, even if it's, you know, like, hey man, reach out if you need a ticket. If you want to go to the game but you can't afford it, like, just reach out. That's all I ask. Like my picture, share it, and you know, it's that simple. So things are becoming more cost effective, and you get, on the other side of things, you get promotion to however many followers that person has. You know, so like this past December of 2020, it wasn't my greatest year financially whatsoever, but I still did 25 days where I gave away something every day till Christmas. And it was an attempt to make somebody's day or Christmas better, right? Because I was just like, well, I'm sitting on quite a bit of inventory. The year didn't turn out as I assumed it would, but at least somebody gets to enjoy and put a smile on their face that, like, oh damn, I own a Iron Bully tank top or Iron Bully something, you know what I mean? And even just for excitement to be correlated to that name, Iron Bullies, it excites me because it's an idea that I brought to life. You know what I mean? And
it feels, I mean, there's this inherent good feeling when you know you can just do a little bit to kind of help somebody out, especially within your own community where you're seeing it firsthand. And one of the things that we talked about leading into this collaboration was, you know, let's pick a cause. Let's find a reason why we should collaborate. I mean, obviously we want to help your business grow, of course, and selfishly we want to help our business grow, and we want to expose, you know, your market to our product, and your product in our market. But there's something that could be even greater that could come from this. And so we had discussed, and we haven't fully decided yet, but that we want some of the proceeds to go back to supporting veterans or veterans' families, because we know that there's a large community of veterans here in the Central Valley. We have, how many different bases are here in the Valley? I mean, you've got Lemoore, you've got Air National Guard here in Fresno. There's probably some that I'm missing, but there's a big community of people in the military and veterans of the military that we know need support. And if we work together intelligently and do well, we're going to be able to help provide something back. 100%. So what does that mean to you to be able to give back to that community?
I mean, it's amazing in many, many ways, just because, you know, most people will never step into like a VA. Specifically not right now, because, you know, those facilities are closed to most, if not all, you know, veterans, just because of the restrictions and this and that. But when it's fully in operation, at least me being as healthy as I probably am right now, I feel bad going there for something like a checkup, because I see, you know, veterans with missing limbs, multiple missing limbs, mental health issues, drug addiction issues, just you know, so it means a lot more, because, you know, I don't know if it would be on a financial aspect or a, hey, we're here for you type deal, but for me, I know that when I needed to talk to somebody, if I could hear from another veteran and get some peace of mind just by simply having a conversation, it made my day better, and it put my mind in a much healthier state, you know. And so yeah, I mean, to me, it's something that I never forget, you know. I may not talk about it often, I try not to utilize that line specifically for people to embrace my brand, because I don't design it, with a bunch of flags or, POW stuff. It's just more or less like I'll tell the story when I feel it's appropriate or when it's asked.
And I mean, at the same time, it's a little different. I mean, it's great that there's this patriotic pride in a lot of veteran related items, but your brand is, to me, even a bigger pride, because you've been able to take what you've learned. You've been able to utilize your experience at the military to get you out of a bad situation. You've utilized it to hone in your skills as an individual and develop as a human being. And you've been able to come out and create a successful business for all veterans to be proud of. You're the exemplary model of what we'd want somebody in this country that goes through the military to become. Yeah. And so your brand is veteran inspired. Yeah. And I think a lot of veterans can look up to your path.
Thank you. That's probably something I definitely haven't recognized for myself. And I think it's just because I think further than just myself. You know what I mean? I'm always thinking about how I can help, and sometimes even when I do help, I feel like I fall short of my own expectations from myself. But that's because I have so much expectations from me, and like nobody put these quotas on me. It was just me just thinking about, you have X amount of years to live, make them the best, and if there's a kid that looks like me, that thought the way that I thought, and that could just watch this or any other podcast or even just meet me in person, I want them to feel inspired. Like, you know what, if that guy could do it, I have a shot. I have a shot at this, because I'm not the smartest guy walking around. I make a lot of mistakes, I make a lot of miscalculations, but at the end of the day, it's always the try that matters. Like, did you try today? Because simply hanging your boots should not be an option on a daily basis. It's just go till you're tired, and even if everybody's telling you no, if you think in your heart that the answer should be yes, or you have the potential to make something happen, just do it, because I think a life is worth living when you go through your process and you satisfy that itch that is within you, because dreams are given individually. They're not given as a group. Ideas are worked on as a group, but the dream was given to one specific person. And I think, even thinking of the Fuego team, and thinking about the good things that could come about, I already have a million thoughts. I could see people celebrating in an environment where, 10 different ethnicities are enjoying a sports team, an event that lasts an hour and a half, and that they could come together and not see differences based off of race, religion, or anything. It's just there to have a good time.
Amen to that. And I think that's we decided to call this the Fuego Flame collaboration. And the reason that we did that is because we're getting to work with people like you that have this passion that you see in the Valley to succeed, to hustle, to make a difference, to be part of a bigger community, to be something more than yourself. And we're really proud that we got to do this with you. I think these shirts here represent the beginning of a great long relationship and an example of how companies can work together in this community. And we just thank you so much for doing this with us. We look forward to what's coming next, man. And Edgar, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. All right.